12-year-old Eli Donovan collapsed on the edge of the front lawn, struggling to breathe, his lips pale, his small chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. His inhaler, the one thing that could save him, was nowhere to be found. Just a few feet away, the community leader who was supposed to protect families like theirs, Meredith Langley, had made a choice that would nearly cost Eli his life. She wasn't a stranger. She was the president of the Homeowners Association in Crestwood Glen, the one who confiscated his backpack for violating aesthetic standards. And she did it with the cold detachment of someone who thought rules mattered more than people. But Eli's mother, Natalie Donovan, wasn't going to let it go. It had been almost 3 years since Natalie lost her husband. Matt had been coming home late from a site visit, was a civil engineer, always chasing deadlines. One moment he was stuck in construction traffic on Route 61, and the next he was gone. No warning. No goodbye. Just rain, flashing headlights, and the call that shattered her world. Their son Eli had only been 9 at the time. He'd sat by the window for days afterward, waiting for his dad to come home. A month later, he had his first serious asthma attack. The doctor called it stress-induced, environmental, genetic. But Natalie didn't care what caused it. All she cared about was that, from that point on, breathing had become the most fragile part of her son's life. Now 12, Eli was small for his age but curious and gentle. He loved stargazing, had a rock collection lined up perfectly on his bedroom windowsill, and always carried his inhaler in a soft blue backpack with a medical tag stitched into the side. They'd moved 3 times since Matt died, chasing better air quality, calmer streets, smaller schools. And when Natalie found the listing for a 2-bedroom house in Crestwood Glen, she thought it was a sign. The gated community was surrounded by tall trees and tucked far from any major highway. It looked like a quiet place to start over. The house had freshly painted shutters and a tiny garden out front. When they first arrived, the wind rustled through the maples, and the sky was a brilliant blue. Natalie remembered thinking, maybe, just maybe, they could start breathing again. The neighbors were polite but distant. There were no kids riding bikes or music playing late at night. The lawns were immaculate, the sidewalks swept clean. It was orderly, serene. The HOA Homeowners Association was known for being strict, but after everything they'd endured, Natalie didn't mind. Order sounded like a relief. 2 days after they moved in, she received a thick manila envelope labeled welcome packet. Inside were bylaws, parking rules, garbage schedules, and a color-coded diagram detailing acceptable curtain shades. Eli had laughed when they got to the section about decorative planters. So no flamingo statues, huh? Natalie smiled. Better uptight than unsafe. And for a while, it was. Eli hadn't wheezed once. He slept through the night, rode his scooter up and down the driveway, and even started a journal. Natalie began baking again. She even picked up a book for the first time in over a year. Sometimes she'd watch him through the window, zipping around in the soft afternoon light, and think, this is what peace looks like. But beneath the tranquility, there was something else. Something cold. The neighbors never waved. The newsletters arrived every Monday, filled with terms like compliance enforcement and visual disruption. One day, a child's bike vanished from the common area, just gone. Eli asked why. Natalie didn't have an answer, but she pushed the worry aside. Because her son was safe. Until he wasn't. It was a Thursday afternoon, normal in every way. The sky was clear, the breeze warm. Natalie ran out for a quick grocery run, 10 minutes, tops. Eli asked if he could stay outside and draw rockets with chalk on the driveway. She agreed. It felt safe. It was safe. Until she came back and saw him. Her brain didn't register it at first. Eli collapsed on the grass, his arms curled in, one hand weakly reaching for the sky. The paper bag dropped from her hands, apples rolling across the pavement. Eli, she screamed, rushing across the lawn. Baby, breathe. Where's your inhaler? His mouth opened, but no sound came. His skin was pale. His eyes wide and scared. And then she noticed that it was missing. The blue backpack. The one he never let out of sight. Gone. Her heart seized. Where is it? She pleaded, searching the empty sidewalk. Where's your bag? A neighbor's door slammed open. Greg Henley, a retired firefighter, sprinted across the street. His wife, Lynn, a former ER nurse, was already dialing 911 barefoot on the lawn. When Natalie choked out the words, his inhaler's gone, someone took his bag, Lynn didn't ask questions. She knelt beside Eli and pulled an inhaler from her own purse, worn and old but still usable. "Open his mouth," she said gently. Natalie did. 2 puffs. Eli gasped. His chest moved barely. But he was breathing. The ambulance came within minutes, sirens slicing through the silence, but to Natalie it felt like eternity. Paramedics lifted Eli onto the stretcher, wrapping an oxygen mask over his face. Natalie turned to Lynn, dazed. Who would take a child's medical bag? Lynn hesitated. "I think it was Meredith Langley," she said quietly. "From the HOA. Natalie stared, not understanding. "She said it was against the rules." The ambulance doors closed behind her son. Natalie's knees buckled, but she didn't fall. That's when she saw him, a man walking briskly down the sidewalk in a gray HOA vest with a clipboard. His name tag read Derek. "Ma'am," he began carefully, "there seems to have been a misunderstanding earlier." Natalie spun toward him, fire in her eyes. "What kind of misunderstanding?" He adjusted his clipboard. "Your son's backpack was left on the communal lawn. Ms. Langley took it." "Took it," Natalie repeated. "That bag has a red emergency medical tag. My son nearly died." She didn't know," Derek mumbled. "She thought it was just a left item." "Clutter." Natalie didn't answer. She turned and walked toward the HOA office. Every step a war drum. The office looked like a boutique whitewashed, with a seasonal wreath on the door. Inside, it smelled like lavender and ink. Meredith Langley sat behind a pristine desk, sipping tea like it was any other afternoon. "Ms. Donovan," she said calmly, not even glancing up. "I figured you'd come." "Where's Eli's backpack?" Natalie demanded. Meredith gestured behind her. "On the shelf. Safe and sound." "But it was an eyesore, lying out on the lawn." Natalie's voice trembled. "He had an asthma attack. You took the one thing keeping him alive." Meredith folded her hands. "The bag was unattended. That violates Section 3B of our appearance guidelines." "It's not clutter. It's medical equipment," Natalie shouted. "Well," Meredith said coolly, "perhaps next time he'll remember the rules." Natalie stood there, frozen, not because she was out of words, but because she realized none of them would matter. This wasn't ignorance. It was cruelty hiding behind policy. "You didn't make a mistake," she said, voice shaking. "You made a choice." Meredith didn't blink. Natalie took the backpack from the shelf, clutching it to her chest, and left without another word. The truth came out that night thanks to a doorbell camera. The neighbors across the street, the Malloys, had captured everything. The footage showed Eli kneeling to pick up his backpack, then Meredith walking across the lawn and yanking it from his hands. He stumbled, clutching his chest. She didn't look back. "Mr. Malloy uploaded the clip to Facebook with a single line, 'A child almost died today. Watch this and tell me this is okay.' It exploded. By morning, there were 500,000 views. By noon, 1 million. Hashtag spread, let kids breathe, HOA horror, justice for Eli. Comments poured in. Nurses, teachers, parents, total strangers. This isn't just cruel. It's criminal. Natalie found out only when a reporter arrived at the hospital. "Miss Donovan," she said gently, "I know this is hard, but the world is talking." The story made national headlines. Good Morning America asked for an interview. Pediatric doctors broke down the science of asthma on TikTok. A lawyer from New York offered to represent Natalie pro bono. And still Meredith stayed silent. The HOA released a bland 2-line statement about ongoing review and community values. People weren't buying it. Old emails from HOA residents surfaced stories of Meredith fining a man for having wind chimes, writing up a wheelchair-bound woman for an unsightly porch, banning chalk drawings. It wasn't just about Eli. It was about how power hides behind rules. And then came the leak. An anonymous whistleblower sent screenshots from a private HOA Slack channel titled Green Zone Watch. One message, sent minutes after Eli's ambulance left, read, "If she can't control her kid, we will. Rules are rules." Another, from Meredith herself, "Let the little drama king hold his breath. Maybe next time he'll listen." The media storm reignited. Finally, under mounting pressure, the district attorney announced formal charges against Meredith Langley, felony child endangerment and attempted murder through reckless indifference. The trial was swift. For days. The footage, the Slack messages, the medical reports. The jury took less than 3 hours. Guilty. On all counts. The judge didn't hold back. You acted not out of confusion, but to exert power where compassion was needed. Meredith was sentenced to 3 years in a state facility, a mandatory psychological evaluation, and a permanent ban from serving on any HOA board. Outside the courthouse, a reporter crouched beside Eli and asked, "How do you feel now that it's over?" He shrugged. "I just want people to let kids breathe." That line hit everywhere, quoted on TV, retweeted by senators. A week later, lawmakers introduced Eli's Law, a bill protecting children's access to medical devices from non-medical interference. It passed in record time. Natalie and Eli stayed, not out of forgiveness but defiance. This was their home. They weren't going to be pushed out. The HOA changed. Residents resigned. Newsletters softened. People knocked on Natalie's door to apologize, some with tears. And one day a new man stood on her porch, clipboard in hand. "I'm the new HOA president," he said. "Tom, I just wanted to say we failed you. But we won't again." Natalie didn't say much, just nodded. Slowly. That evening she stood at the window as the sun bathed the street in gold. Eli was outside, drawing rockets again. The blue backpack was gone. The inhaler was clipped to his waistband. Natalie smiled, because after everything they were still here, still standing, still breathing, and finally safe.